Full screen, always better. So small, yeah. Hello, good day. How you doing? I'm Leon, in case you're wondering, it also says it on the bottom. And you're watching Black Game Pro Sessions. For those joining first time, Black Game Pro Sessions is a platform that I created to uplift and showcase all the amazing people of color working in our industry. And hopefully through that inspire you all to join, because we need more. We need more of you. Actually, I mean, if my calculations are correct, today is the 30th episode, maybe 31, depending on how you count. But 30 hours of amazing conversation that I've had with the previous guests so far, and honestly, it's been a pleasure and an honor to host these sessions. Also for you, for everybody watching, which is very much appreciated, because I know that you're watching from all over the world, which is super cool to see. I see people from the States, from Canada, from Europe, from Africa, all join together to watch this kind of content. So thank you for that. And I will keep on doing this for as long as I can. Anywho, enough about me. I want to dive into today's guests because, I've been in this industry for 20 years. But today's guest has 30 years in this industry, 30 plus years in the industry, which I tip my hat at. I'm not wearing a hat today, but I tip my hat to that because it's how can I say this in a proper way? Today's guest is really someone who has seen almost every era of the modern gaming industry firsthand. And I think that's so important because TQ Jefferson has spent roughly 30 years building games and franchises across more than 100 shipped titles, working with IP, intellectual property, including Alien, Spider-Man, Avengers, X-Men, The Walking Dead, Avatar, Predator. He's currently Chief Product Officer at Survios. But what I'm most interested in today isn't simply the incredible list of credits. It's the longevity, the lessons, the evolution, and what happens when someone who has already achieved so much decides that it might be time to think even bigger. So, Mr. Jefferson, TQ, welcome to Black Game Pro Sessions. Bam, there you are.
There it is. Leon, thanks for having me on here. This is great to be invited as a guest. It's an honor. It really is. And I appreciate the opportunity just to sort of maybe share a little of my story, and hopefully it helps some folks that are listening or watching. And let's see where it goes.
I appreciate you being here. Really, it's I have to say, and also thank you, Mark Fraser, previous guest, for joining as well. Hello from London. Hello from Amsterdam, or the Netherlands. And you're located in TQ, or where are you based out of?
I'm in Oakland, California.
Oakland, yes. I haven't been there in a while. Fun vibes.
Yeah, it's awesome. Mm-hmm. I recently moved here in the last 8-9 months, and I am just loving it up here. It's amazing. So yeah, if you're ever curious, just lean in, take the dive, go to Oakland, check stuff out. It's really fun.
Yeah, I agree, man. I had to spend some time there, I spent some time there during a set of meetings that I had in San Francisco for E3 back in the days, and I really enjoyed the Oakland vibe, Oakland food, and just walking around like downtown Oakland and just. It was dope. It was dope.
The best part is GDC, and this year you get on BART, you go across the water, or under it. I'm not sure how it goes, and you're there in 20 minutes, right? And
crazy, right?
Everyone that travels to GDC knows there's like the I go to the airport and the Uber and the this, the that, whatever, and each night I get to go home.
Oh yeah,
so that's wonderful.
Luxury. That is a proper luxury. I remember doing. I used to produce GDC for Ubisoft as well for probably like 5-6 years. So I remember the grind of just getting through San Francisco traffic. That was always fun. Yeah. And the prices of hotels. Oh my god. Anywho, we're not here for the tourist board of San Francisco, even though it's a fun place to be at sometimes, depending on where you go. It's all about you today, good sir. 30 years in. That is longevity. Oh, by the way, indeed, I see Erin in the chat. I have to give the shout out to her for making the connection.
Erin Serletic, she's amazing.
She is.
And she introduced us to each other. So thank you, Erin, for doing this.
But yeah, 30 years in, man. After 20 years myself, I sometimes like look in the mirror and like, where did time go? How do I stay on? How do I keep myself motivated to keep on doing this shit? And you've been doing this for 10 years longer than me, and you still look like like you also said in like the pre-brief form that I shared with you, you're still thinking about what's next, what's bigger. How do you keep this energy up?
Well, I think that there is a progression. There's an arc to a career, I think, in any industry. But and as you go from project to project or company to company, as the time goes by, you're gathering up experiences and, and knowledge and skills and connections, and all of those things sort of combine to keep things moving forward and keep things progressing. Like the great thing about the games industry is that, or one of the great things, is that we exist at the bleeding edge of technology and how it's being used to entertain, tell stories, allow people to interact with media. So the industry itself is in a constant state of renewal, annihilation and renewal, right? If you want to be dramatic about it,
it's like the phoenix. It's like the phoenix rising from the ashes over and over again.
Yeah, exactly. It's this cyclical event where you've got hardware transitions, you've got engine updates, you've got new genres rising, old genres merging together, and so we say, "Oh, I've made games," and it's almost like an oversimplification to say I've made games. It's like I've made these experiences, and each one is so different from the last. You could have a team of people make a particular game, and have the same people make a similar game in the same space, and it's going to be a different production, right? Because something's different, the budget's different, the timeline's different, the audience has shifted. Five of the people on the team have had kids, or what, like there are all these different factors that influence a game, geopolitics, right? So it's always kind of new. And like what you bring is like all those experiences I was talking about. I think of that as my black box. So that's my flight recorder. That's my black box of like, this is what I've gathered up all these years, and what's in that black box helps me sort of interpret, the newest wave or the newest cycle. And so it allows you to come to the table with maybe you're a little more prepared this time. Right, that's the difference. But it always kind of starts the same way. What if? It always ends the same way. Like, ooh, we got to cut scope, or or I mean, so there are these familiar touchstones to it. But I feel like it's just such an adventure every time. And like I said, the black box. I add a little bit more to it, and I come to a new project with like a different perspective. Well, what if we did this in the last one? What if we do this this time? Or the audience is here, so maybe we shouldn't do this thing. Maybe we should do this other thing, right? And I think that's what really keeps it interesting. Is that the story always changes.
I mean, that is true. I mean, this is one of the most dynamic industries I think to work in, with everything that's going on in general. But take us back, like, to the moment when you started filling that black box, when you didn't even have that black box. What was your foray into video games?
Oh my gosh, yeah, this is, kids don't do this at home, but
or do.
I had honestly, just a little TLDR is if I apply to a company now with what I knew then, I probably would have never gotten in the building, right? So I started in QA at Activision in summer of '97. So this is PlayStation 1 days. This is 486 computers and so forth, right? And I had just been living in Japan teaching English, and I was one of those folks that used computers to type as papers. And then I was sort of done. And I would go to the arcade every now and then. So that was like, casual player, right? And a buddy of mine said, "Hey, apply for, you should," I was looking for a job because I just come back. And he goes, "You should apply to be a tester at this company." I'm like, dude, like I need a job. I need like something with income. Like that sounds like a hobby to me. And he's like, no, it's a real job that pays money. You should go check it out. And to make a short story long,
Please do. That's what we're here for.
One of the first lessons I learned was dress like you want the job. It's a job. It's a job interview. Take it seriously. If you come in with sort of mustard stains on your shirt or looking like you just rolled out of bed and wake and baked, even if it's a game testing, job, it's a job. Treat it with respect. So I got the job. He didn't. Is what that means there. And when I came in, like I really, they were asking me things like, well, how would you build a computer? And like I said, I just used them to finish papers, right? And I'm riding the bus there because I didn't have a car yet, and I've got the circular from Best Buy. Do you know what I mean? Like the thing that comes Sunday paper. And I'm flipping to the computer section, and I'm trying to memorize the specs, right, on the bus on the way to the interview, right, to Activision. And I'm like, this is ridiculous. This is crazy. Like, I'm like, just go in there and just have a conversation. So I got in there, and the person was like, hey, so how would you build a computer? And I tried to pull out the spec thing. And I was like, well, all right, look, I'm just going to level with you, right? Like, I was trying to memorize specs from the Best Buy circuit on the way over here. Never built a computer in my life. I have no idea how to build a computer, right? But, if you teach me, the skill, I'll learn it. And if once I learn it, I'll dazzle you. I promise. And the person interviewing me was like, you know what? That's, like the person that interviewed me, Mark Turndorf, shout out to that guy, was like, hey, you know what? That's the most honest answer I've heard from any applicant for this position. And he's like, look, man, I didn't know a lot either, right? Like, I used to be a lawyer, and I decided I didn't want to practice law or, be in court. So I came and started doing this, right? And that sort of showed me, like, that was my first glimpse of, like, well, games are, all walks of life are showing up in games, you could be a lawyer, you could be, like, a bouncer at a bar, right? You can be an engineer. You could be all these different things coming to the game industry. And I thought that was a really great component of it, of that. I was in QA, the basement of Activision at the time. We called it the room full of hate. And and there were all walks of life in that room. And it was amazing, just this interesting cast of characters. And that's where I started learning on the job. All about the games industry. So the QA then, and this is not to be reductive, QA back then was like, it was the quote unquote mailroom position in a game company, right? So there's that was the way in. You get into QA, you do good work, you maybe lead something, you get noticed by someone in production or on the dev team. You get plucked out of there and you go up and you become a production tester. So you're going upstairs, literally upstairs at Activision at the time. And you're doing work there and maybe you're coming back down or whatever. But if you're lucky, then that gets bumped to a production coordinator position.
Mm-hmm.
Now you're in production, right? That's the path. Like you like from QA to that, you've made it, baby, right? That sort of thing. And from there, you either go further up into production, you go over lateral to development, or whatever. But that was sort of the defined path for people
Mm-hmm.
coming into the industry. Now I think it's still there to a degree, but I think there's so many other factors now, right?
True.
But this was the equivalent of like I'm in the mail room at was it Merrill Lynch or Lehman Sachs or whatever it is, and I'm delivering stuff, whatever, and I work my way up because someone notices me, and I get a cubicle, right? It's the same mechanism, just applied to the games industry. It was really something.
So take us to that first day that you walked into the Activision Q&A, the seller of hate, or I don't know what you call it.
You know what's the funnier story is not the first day, it's the second day. And the second day was, and I've told this story before, but not in a while. The second day is when I learned what right click meant. Now, I wasn't being hyperbolic when I said I just use a computer to type papers, print them, and
you were for real.
Like it was my buddy's computer. By the way, well, inside of me, sorry professors, but every paper that I ever did in college, everyone that I turned in was a first draft, written the night before, live edited, spell checked, printed. Done. Yep. I don't think I even reread it. Just here it is, right? So that's how much I'm not on the computer. But so we're playing. We're testing. I found a bug in a game called Zork Grand Inquisitor, right? Text-based game, classic. Like people loved that game back in the day. And I found some bug, and the VP of the group comes down. Mm-hmm. Right? This is like Poseidon just showed up from Olympus, right? These
mortals, listen to me.
These are people, these people are that you hear about on a floor that you're never going to go to, right? And his name is Scott Lehman, right? He's great. I recently reconnected with him in the last couple of years. It's awesome seeing that guy. Anyway, he's like, and I'm sitting there like, this is too much attention for me for my second day. This is ridiculous. And he's like, all right, well, just, right click on this folder. And I was like, oh, here we are. It's like 2 days. This is a hell of a run. You know what I mean? I was like, it was nice while it lasted, right? Because I'm like, I don't know what the hell he's talking about, right? I'm like, well, there's a right button on this mouse. So I put the cursor on the folder and click it. And he goes, yeah. I'm like, oh, Jesus Christ. I'm sitting there like this, right? Just relieved. And no, I don't think anyone picked up on it. Thank goodness, right? But that was my second day, which was like I learned what right click meant, and I got moved from Zork Grand Inquisitor to I want to say it was Dark Reign: The Future of War, which was this RTS game made by Oren. And I have a poster of it to this day. I love that game. It was awesome. It was like, if you remember the old Dune RTS.
Yes.
It kind of had that vibe, right?
It's so much of that.
Yeah. So it had that feel to it, right? And I just love that game. Yeah. But I got moved to this project, and this is how training went back in the day. It was, hey, you see that guy over there? Yeah, and he would go, like, that's Chris. He's the multiplayer guy. Go sit with him. It's like, okay. You sit down, and Chris showed me everything, right? He showed me, showed me the things I needed to, on the next project, be the network lead. And that sort of mentorship, apprentice mentor sort of relationship was for me, it was absolutely vital for me to acclimate and to uh, 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 learn the job and do well.
Mm-hmm.
I think, going fast forwarding a bit, I think that is a feature or practice that really needs to come back. You know, I don't think there's enough of that handoff and helping people up the ladder or down the path a bit. But
Yeah.
I benefited from it, um, and from there I just sort of kept learning on the job. So
Mm-hmm.
everything I learned or know about the game industry started on day two at
With right
Activision
click.
in the basement. Yeah,
I
exactly.
love that. You should. That should be the title of your book.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I learned what right click meant on day two.
Exactly. That's hey, bestseller. Bestseller. There
Yeah,
you
so
go.
the TQ's journey.
Exactly. Oh, yes.
Too funny.
I can see like the cover art with like a mouse with like question mark where to click. Yeah, yeah.
Yes, yes.
So, what did you do with your first paycheck? Do you still remember? Did you celebrate? I mean, was it like a moment of like, okay, I'm kind of like I've passed my like the how do you say that the intake time where they can still fire you, the trial time?
Yeah, yeah. I don't really remember what I did with that first paycheck. I think I might have put down a security deposit on an apartment or something like that because, like I said, I
That's
just
smart.
moved back. I just moved back from Japan,
Mm-hmm.
and so I was either staying like a short term lease, or
Mm-hmm.
I was staying with friends.
Mm-hmm.
So, after that first check allowed me to, I think it was with my buddy Pete, put down a deposit and move into, my own place or our place.
Uh-huh.
So I guess get homed is the thing that I did. I'm sure there was some celebrating as well, but it was like priority, you know, get a place, stop, get off your friend's couch, get out of this sort of scenario, and start adulting, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yes, the important process. Okay, now what to do with life? Indeed, get the apartment, get the groceries, get the insurance, all these wonderful things that people tend to forget when you're still young.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. It's so, there are certain, you know, realities that are just unavoidable and will not be put aside. And I took care of those first. Then I think at
Super
some
smart.
point in time, the beer flowed, and fun was had in celebration. So, hey, look, I've got a job. But I think the really interesting thing was one of those friends whose place I stayed at his parents' place, and I was talking to the dad, Greg, and he was like, "So I hear you've got a job now. Tell me about it." And I was telling him about it. I was like, "It's game testing." I was like, "I don't know. Is it? It seems fun. Like they tell me it could be a career." But I was like, my mind was racing ahead and trying to lay out a path. And he's looking at me and he's just sort of smiling. I'm like, "What?" And he just shakes his head. He goes, "Look, I was 40 before I knew what I was going to do with my life. You're what, 20, 24?" I was
Mm-hmm.
like, "Yeah, yeah." He just puts his on his shoulder. He's like, "You got time. Just
You'll be all right. You'll be all right.
relax,
Mm-hmm.
figure it out. Nothing's rushing you, right? That sort of thing." So, yeah, Greg and Lois, these people became sort of like second parents to me, and they're just amazing, and that gave me some perspective. You know, I
Mm-hmm.
exhaled a bit, and I was like, "Okay, yeah, yeah, let's just sort of
We'll
enjoy
figure
this
it
for a
out.
bit, and do the work, have fun, etc. And slow down, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing. So we always try to rush to get everything done, and sometimes you just need to go slow, slow is smooth, and smooth is fast,
Oh
or
yeah,
something like that. That's the saying.
something exactly something like that. But I mean, when I was still younger, it's like you still have the feeling like, oh, I need to prove myself. I need to run and jump and show and go and be places. And indeed, the moment that you start to accept that you can do that for sure, but you don't need to do that. That's kind of like indeed,
Yeah.
like you said, when things start calming down and things start falling into place, and you start to go with
Well,
the flow.
well, it's it's easily said now at this point in
Mm-hmm.
time, right? But
100%.
one of the great hobgoblins that plagues you throughout your career is going to be imposter syndrome, right?
Yep.
And and I think minorities, especially women, especially minorities, doubly so, um, constantly wrestle with this idea of I don't belong here.
Mm-hmm.
And I used to joke about it. I used to go, "Yeah, so you're still working at the thing?" I'm like, "Well, they haven't found me out yet." Right? You say stuff like that.
I said the same thing. I still say the
Yeah,
same thing.
yeah. It's like I'm still fooling them. They're still letting me do the thing, right?
Yep.
But at any minute, I'm waiting for them to walk in, tap me on the shoulder, and go, you had a good run, kid." Right? But we
Yep.
figured you out. And unfortunately, that can stay with you for your entire career. Like
Mm-hmm.
I still feel it at times, right? And I wrestle with it constantly. It's one of my hobgoblins, one of my demons. But back then, when I'm in a room and I know that I don't know a lot of stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
I know that all these people here, might have grown up with a computer in their house and programming and this and that. Like you could hear the stories, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you're just like, I don't know how I got in this room. I better, do something. Like you are constantly, trying to figure out how to, move ahead, buttress yourself, to either not get noticed, um, or rather not get noticed for the wrong reasons, right? And it's like I just got to do the work. I would come in early and just mess around with the computers just so I could try to figure stuff out. Like I got to
Mm-hmm.
catch up. So I think it's something that really hits you hard when you're earlier in your career, but I don't think it really goes away. I think it changes, and I think you might become better at. Well, you definitely become better at recognizing it. You get better at coping with it, and you get better at directing it
Mm-hmm.
and turning it into drive or creative energy or curiosity or whatever. But anything but the sort of self-devouring sort of feeling of like if I don't do this, I'm cooked, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but it can take some time, like you said, for you to kind of like realize that.
Yeah,
It took some time for me, and the same thing here. I still have that feeling every now and then.
yeah. Oh yeah,
It's
it's like I think it was Obama said this about what it's like um, addressing people as the president, right?
Mhm.
And he was saying like when I was a senator, I had to address crowds in like a gymnasium, right? And there was a stage, and I'm on there, and it's 100 people, whatever it is. Then I was he was a congressman, I think. Then he was a senator, and it's like I'm addressing the Senate. It's like it's a bigger stage, it's more
Mhm.
people, but it's a stage and it's people, or something like that. I'm
Yeah.
paraphrasing it probably poorly, but it's like then as the president, it's just another stage.
Mhm.
It's just more. It's just another room. It's just another room full of people, right? So it's like it's sort of the same mechanism the same experience.
Yeah,
but
just different scale or
yeah,
different
the
audience.
scale might be bigger, right? That sort of thing. The topic might be a bit different. So in that regard, I think some of the stuff that you experienced when you're earlier in your career, it stays with you. It just sort of gets bigger or smaller, changes shape, or it shifts direction. But it's a lot of the same mechanisms, and thank goodness. So that means your experience means something. It builds towards something.
True.
It's actually
that's true.
It's still useful. You're not jettisoning skills, as you're moving through your career. You're just adding to them and refining them.
That's very true. But how do you scale from Q&A tester of an RTS game to working on some of the biggest brands in the world? That doesn't happen overnight. I think you already like drop clues on how you got there, because you seem to have been more hungry, more eager, more willing to go the additional mile and teach yourself. But these because I know these massive billion-dollar brands, they don't just want to work with any person. So how did you get there?
Yeah. So I'll start with sort of the moment that I got plucked out of QA, like I was alluding to earlier. So at that time, Activision had just announced that they acquired the rights to both Spider-Man and the X-Men from Marvel. And I have been and still am an avid, voracious comic book reader and collector. And I grew up.
Don't say. Looking behind.
Yeah. I grew up and toy collector and Transformers junkie. But Spider-Man and X-Men, I grew up with Spider-Man. Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends. Iceman and Firestar, etc. That introduced me to X-Men, and the X-Men is what got me into comic book collecting. So I came to Activision with my 15,000 hours of absorbing this content, and any job, but QA especially, you're talking about the nerd speak is flying, right? Like It's Star Trek, it's Star Wars, it's X-Men, it's Batman, it's blah blah blah. It's a pop culture free for all in there, right? And what happened was once they announced it, I was like, oh, that's amazing. I wish I could work on that. And I think word got to someone in the marketing group, Will Kasoy. So word got to Will, like, hey, there's a guy in QA right now that knows the X-Men and Spider-Man chapter and verse. They're like, it's I almost said uncanny, but that's just too cute. It's freaky how much he knows about those two franchises. So Will Kasoy came down to QA, found me, invited me out to lunch, and was like, hey, just tell me about Spider-Man, tell me about X-Men, right?
And I'm just shit.
Well, it was like how Arsenio Hall did, topic, what's that about, right? And well, he said that about X-Men. I'm like, we don't have enough time in a lunch for me to tell you everything about X-Men, but here it is at its core. Here's the metaphor. Here's this. Here's that. Here's why I think it's amazing, and blah blah blah. Soon enough, I got sort of pulled up into the production group as a production tester, just like I was saying. I think it was nebulous what I was. I think I was a tester coordinator or something like that. But put on the Marvel stuff and working on Spider-Man and working on X-Men. And, working on, one of those after another, Spider-Man, X-Men Mutant Academy, Spider-Man 2 Enter Electro was the first game that I actually got to produce on my own. I think it was Mutant Academy 2. And everything that slowly started, everything Marvel I was touching, and it got to the point.
Sorry to interrupt you, but I mean, you're like, I'm not going to let you yada yada over, and then I started producing. Like, well, I mean, I mean, that's a giant leap. Like,
yes.
I mean,
Yes.
other, I mean, I am sure that you delivered amazing work, and that's why you got promoted. But what was that process like? Because you started working on Marvels, you started working on X-Men, and then at a certain point in
yeah,
time, you were so good at what you did that they were like, "Nah, that's
you know
lead
what?
producer."
I've got to be honest with you, Leon, and go, sort of warts and all, which
Please,
was when I was on the first Spider-Man, which was the Neversoft Spider-Man, right? I don't think I was a very good employee then. I think I was walking around thinking I was the cock of the walk,
mm-hmm.
and I wasn't doing a good job. I'll admit that. Full stop.
Mm-hmm.
Um, then I got a talking to, I got an adjustment, you know, and sort of changed my attitude about it, about work and about the work,
Mm-hmm.
and just tried to double down on not making the same mistakes again. And so eventually I got you know the opportunity to essentially produce Spider-Man 2, which was done by Vicarious Visions and not Neversoft. Neversoft was now fully invested in Tony Hawk,
Mm-hmm.
which came up at the same time. And,
Tony Hawk,
uh,
yes.
uh, and like there are folks that like Dave Stoll and so forth that were there that just sort of like that I owe a debt of gratitude, because
Mm-hmm.
it's easy enough to cut people loose. No one's going to get mad at you for cutting somebody loose. Um, so I'm definitely appreciative of that. Um, but I got onto Spider-Man 2 Enter Electro, and I was, I think I became I think I was an associate producer at that point, but it's what, you know, you do the work. The promise was do the work, release the game, and
Mm-hmm.
if it's on time and under budget, we can have the conversation about bumping you up, right? And to a producer. And that game was great because I got to lean in on so many different things. Not only was I working with the team at Vicarious, was an amazing team, right? Um, I got to write on the game. I wrote a bunch of the dialogue, a bunch of the story, along with the lead designers over there. I got to voice direct. I got to
Crazy.
cast, and sort of run this thing. And the game, it came in on time. It was under budget, and then
Right.
unfortunately, when it was in the trucks ready to go to the stores, 9/11 happened,
Mm-hmm.
and the final level of Enter Electro was a fight between Spider-Man and Electro on top of the World Trade Center.
Yeah.
So,
Recall.
and this is like credit to Vicarious. Like I think they were our first call that came in, and this is like a year and a half, 2 years of their lives too.
Mm-hmm.
And the first thing that they said was, we have a possible solution for changing the entire end of the game. No questions asked, no trying to convince anybody of anything. They were on board, and it was amazing. But there went the profit of the game, right? Because we had to
Mm-hmm.
scrap every copy that was in the on the trucks and so forth, and reissue the game. You could still find copies out there of the original version, in like the grayest of markets. Um, but yeah, so that was the thing where I got to really lean in and stretch and produce and create and blah 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 and all that stuff. And from there, I got bumped up, and continued to work on Marvel stuff. Was working direct. I became the person that was talking to Marvel exclusively for the production group across all the projects.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I got to meet those folks, right? And see how they operate and go out to Marvel in New York. And for me, kid grew up watching Spider-Man and all that stuff. Well, I mean, it was like Disneyland. If Disneyland was a bunch of taupe cubicles in a nondescript building, but it was still cool. And from there, I
Yeah, I
would get
can
more
imagine.
more and more stuff, and then it was more and more licenses started to come my way. So in the time I was there, I got to work on DreamWorks stuff with Shrek. I got to work on more Marvel stuff with the varying Spider-Mans, Sam Raimi Spider-Man, and onward. Building concepts.
It's insane, right? Yeah, and I know for you, because you lived this life, and this is just your resume. It's normal. You did, yeah. This is indeed what you did. However, and for the people watching, you need to realize. I remember we had Avatar, so one of the James Cameron IPs in Ubisoft Forward a few years ago. And I remember talking to.
I know, I worked on that.
Oh, well, there you go. And especially like the first Avatar game that we did, I remember the entire floor in our Montreal office was like blocked off, special VIP, like only like limited access for like super important people.
Yeah,
and you were one of those people there. You were one of those people in those rooms working on a massive IP that, from a security perspective, was super confidential, dude. That's the level of trust that they must have had for you. Definitely was like top level. Dude. That's respect.
Check this out. Like, I went to when the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movie was filming, and this was at like, I think, the height of the licensed movie game tie-in, right? That era where you had to have a game ready to go 2 weeks before the film came out because you wanted to capture the halo and all that stuff. And we were allowed to read the script, right? 2 of us got to go to Sony. They put us in a room, like a break room, with a lot of cameras on us. They gave us one script, and we had to read a page, hand it over, read a page, hand it over. And that's how we read the script. And we couldn't take notes at all, right?
Yep.
And we left, and what we did is we hauled back to Activision, and I sat down and rewrote the story of the film from memory, and then took that transcription, and then started pulling it apart and turning it into a proposed game. It's like, oh, well, we could put Scorpion here. We can put Goblin will be here, and I started putting in these and why they're there, right, and so forth. So this is sort of a story treatment / pitch, and then we got to go back. We got to go to the set. And like, okay, you have to put this in front of Sam. Like, Sam's got to bless this. So we're on set. Sam Raimi's there directing a scene with Willem Dafoe. And it's the one where he's got the glasses on and he's doing whatever, right? So it's the glider, right? And Sam is talking to us, directing the scene, looking at dailies, and then coming back to us, right? He's doing this circuit while we're there. And we put my treatment in his hands, and he starts reading it quickly, right? And he's going through, he's like, right? He's like, all right, and beforehand, I said, like, do you think he's going to have any problems with it? Like, if he has a problem with anything, it's going to be with Scorpion. Because Scorpion, the way I have Scorpion introduced, it kind of changes Goblin's origin a little bit. So he's reading, and sure enough, he goes, hold on. There's something here about Scorpion that's blah, blah, blah. And they go, Sam, we need you. He goes, hold that thought, hands it back to us. Does a scene, does dailies, comes back, takes the paper back. So yeah, the thing about Scorpion, didn't miss a beat, right? He calls it out, and while he was doing that circuit, I'm revising what the story is, in real time with like my boss and like the Sony guy and all that stuff. Mark Kaplan was his name. We're still friends to this day because of this meeting, right? And he comes back. I'm like, Sam, we got you. Understood. We'll do this. We'll move this here. We'll change this thing. And he goes, oh yeah, that solves it. I have no problems. This is great, right? Like, where were you guys for rewrites? And then he goes back on his circuit thing, right? and then like we're talking, and Willem Dafoe comes over, right? And it's like, we're showing him a scene with blah, blah, blah. He's like, where's Goblin? Right? And he starts doing this, But it was super cool, right? This is one of those things.
I can imagine.
This is awesome, right? but that was one of those great moments in a series of like great moments where you're sort of meeting these legends and juggernauts in their craft, and you're having these conversations with them, and it's not the please sir, can I have some more? It's like almost peer level where it's like, okay, this is a story, blah blah blah. Let's talk about this and all that, and that's happened, many times in my career since, and it's fun, it's great. It doesn't always go your way. It doesn't come that easy or whatever, but that it's the job, right? Oh, yeah. And that's
one of the perks of the job.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. Like some of the
but how do you deal with that? I mean, you're a fan. I mean, you're a fan of the genre. You're a fan of the Marvel. You're a fan of comic books, and then you're with the creators of that universe. I mean, for me, for example, whenever it can sometimes break the dream when you get too close to the actual creation, you're like, I mean, yeah. How did that work for you? Especially how could you like bite your tongue at specific moments where you're like, yeah, but the lore says that this should happen.
It's some comedian has said this before, but it's like act like you've been somewhere, Yeah. But I mean, still, there have been folks where I can't help myself, but to fan out a bit. And but you tamp it down real fast, right? You let it show, then you tamp it down really fast so that they know you had your moment or whatever. But this is also on Spider-Man 2 Enter Electro, was meeting Stan Lee was huge. God. And Trammell, Predator Hunting Grounds. That's where we met Schwarzenegger.
Oh wow!
But
okay, we're going to dive into that later. Okay.
The thing was with Stan Lee, like we if you remember Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends, at the opening of after every commercial break, it would come back, and Stan Lee would have a thing like, "This is it, true believer." Yeah. Well, Spider-Man, blah blah blah, right? So I wrote a bunch of these for him for every level of the game, right? And we would have like a prototype or a playable in the booth, so we could actually show the people like this is what's going on, kind of, in as much as we could, just to give them context. And we're showing him the game. It's Stan Lee, right? And I'm showing him the game and talking him through the thing, and he puts an arm around me, right, and goes, "This is amazing. I think I'm in the presence of geniuses," right? And I'm like, this is insane. Wow. And he's going through the dialogue and he's reading it and he's doing his Stan Lee bit. And he's like, this is really good. And my boss is there. He goes, yeah, TQ wrote that just for you, right? That sort of thing. Wow. It's like, and that's like, if you're a bass player and you're sort of jamming, whatever, having a good time, and Sting walks up to you and goes, hey, that's pretty good. Could I join you? You're like, yeah, why not? So there are all these great moments. And yes, Trammell, not too long ago we did Predator Hunting Grounds
before we get into that story of Trammell. So what did you do when you got back home that night that you met Stan Lee? I mean, did you go to your wife and be like, oh my god, or did you have a moment where you released, or was it just part of the life?
I mean, I think there's a photo of me somewhere, with this cheese-eating grin, like splitting my head in half. With him, so it was like you could see, it was like a kid with too many pixie sticks, you know what I mean, where they're just humming from all the sugar in their body. It was that, right? You're pretty high off of that sort of thing. And like there have been other times with Stan where I've come away and just like, this is how did I get here? This is awesome. So So yes, and then real quick, because I know Trammell brought it up.
No, please. I have time, so please go get it.
we did this game, Predator Hunting Grounds, with Ilphonic, and it's this wonderful, fun, asymmetrical combat game that actually satisfies two power fantasies at the same time. One is a high-level operator like Dutch from Predator, right?
Yep.
On a fire team. and the other is the Predator, right? So it's a 1v5 game, and Jared Garrettson, the creative director of Ilphonic, was like, we got to get Schwarzenegger to come back as Dutch. And it's like, all right, dude, sure. Right? Well, we'll try. Like, I'm not going to tell you no, right? And sure enough, I think he wrote a treatment for how Dutch would be in the portrayed in the game. And this was at the same time that rumors were going around he was supposed to be in The Predator, right? And he turned down The Predator because he was like, he didn't like the script and blah, 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 right? Then here comes us, this little, games group, like, hey, would you like to be a part of this? And he said yes, right? He liked the treatment. And the art was great. It was like, we aged up Dutch, like it was in real time, right? So it was a Dutch that was 20 years older. He had a blade that was like from the Predator's, gauntlet. That was his dagger. It was he looked like he'd been hunting predators this whole time, right? And we're at the VO house, and we're waiting for him to show up, and we're all talking, blah, blah, blah. And in walks Arnold Schwarzenegger, and we all turn around and we're looking at him, and 5 grown men were paralyzed. I think I know what I was doing. I was, Conan, Commando, Terminator. It's like I was just seeing him in all of these, iterations.
And it's like, he's real. He's real.
Yeah, and now he's standing right there.
Yep.
Right? And he's looking at us. He's like, who's in charge here? We're like, he's the creative director, right? Blah, 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 right. And so it was amazing. He came in. He was game. Like he did a far more lines of dialogue than I thought he was going to do. And I actually said something like, he got paid by the minute by the word on Terminator, too. Like, this seems like a lot, but he was down for it, which was great. And what I do want to say is, like, we did, aside from Schwarzenegger, there was this stuff of like just the game itself, and we wanted to do this thing where we rolled out all these different skins. That's common in games. You have skins, you have like downloadables, blah, 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 anything to make the tail longer. And we were doing all these different, Predator character skins, and we did this the Samurai Predator, which was amazing. Trebell art directed that. We did the Samurai, and then I think there was some bartering for horse trading. For we want to do this. If you let us do this, we'll give you a Viking Predator, because I'm a huge Thor junkie, right? And Norse mythology is like one of my obsessions. So they were like, dangled the carrot of like, Norseman on there. I was like, I'm game, right? So we got all these great versions, an Egyptian version, female predators, right? Like definitive female predators. And that was an interesting internal conversation, because they're like, wait, has the film even established that they're a female, right? I'm like,
I don't think
I don't know, but we can do it, right? That's
here they are.
Yeah, so that was great, being able to not just collaborate with the team on that, but then internally you have to socialize these things, especially like with the studio, because you might all be 20th Century Fox, but they're the studio, and Predator belongs to them. So you do have to, politic and go and talk to these folks and get them on board and get them to understand what you're doing, why you're doing it, why you're asking for assets, that sort of thing. That's all part of the job. And, you get them on board with it, and it gives you just more and more options. It makes the game better, right? But but that's always it's always a dance. It's always a negotiation, because there's some things where they're like, oh no, we're planning to do. There's convergence, which I find is fascinating, right? When you pitch something, they're like, you're a little too close to something we were going to do, which I think is awesome, validation. It means you're thinking along the right lines, but also it means you can't do it, right? Like I did this game, Alien Rogue Incursion. It's like one of the most recent games I did, and when we were pitching this to 20th Century Games and Disney and so forth, we had a king alien in the pitch, and they were like, "Yeah, the king alien. We think we might use that for something down the
Exactly.
road."
Shelve that one for
like,
now.
Okay, fine. Like, how about Project Apex? And they're like, "Ooh, that's interesting. What's Project Apex?" I'm like, "I don't know. I just made it up right now, but I'll go back.
Figure it out. I got
I'll
you.
figure it out. You know, if
Give
I
me
can't
2
have a
days.
king, I'll have Apex, that sort of thing." So it's always a negotiation.
A king alien. That king alien must have looked badass in the pitch. I can
Oh, I
see
mean,
that.
there's art in places for king aliens out there and all that stuff, but it's just like something that like we thought we wanted to do, and again, we so it was the negotiation of like, can we do it, can we not, you know, where are the guardrails,
Mm-hmm.
and how can we push against them?
I think there's a question, and I think the answer is yes, because I know how these things work. You probably got like a brand book, brand Bible, guidelines, rules. Do this, don't do this. Stay within
Yeah,
these lines.
there's the franchise. There's might be a franchise team that
Yep.
sits sort of like in the middle of the web, as it were, and they monitor and safeguard and inform based on not just games, but games and comic books and consumer products and blah blah blah. And they have like some stuff that is sort of formalized, like Predator has certain fonts that it uses.
Mm-hmm.
Alien has certain very specific fonts that it uses, and you get that sort of guidebook, and then you'll get color Pantone or reference for the xenomorph or the Predator Yautja, pronunciation guides, what everything's called, all that stuff, and those are sort of like the boilerplate of the IP. These are the things that are just standard. But then, most of these, I think most every license holder at this point has got on this particular train, which is good in that they want games, they want partners, be it games or toys or whatever, to extend the IP. They want these partners to bring things new because, business being business, if Predator Hunting Grounds makes 17 new Predators, well, we can take those designs and bring them over to NECA, and NECA will make the toys, and then maybe we'll have the T-shirts to have them on it. Blah blah. Yeah, I mean, it's like, and that's just franchise management. That's all that is. There's nothing sinister about that. What's even better is if like you see something where it's like Gamerverse or from this thing that kind of points back at the game or gives it a little nod or whatever. That's a nice to have, but not essential. So if you're doing that sort of thing and it spreads around and so forth, there are groups that, organizations within the organization that sort of handle this and traffic and all this stuff. But then and this is what I did for a lot of my career, which is the sort of creative direction, creative collaboration of designs are coming through, and it could just by designs I mean it could be art, it could be documents about the mechanics they want to use, etc. And you're looking at that with an idea of like, okay, is this aligned with the IP or the franchise? Is it obeying the understood rules of the IP? And I'll give you an example. I think it was a Treyarch. Was working on one of the Spider-Man games, and they came to me and they're like, "Hey, we want to give Spider-Man bullets." It's like, I'm sorry, say that again. Bullets. It's like, well, no, you can't because Spider-Man, one, he doesn't use guns, and two, he doesn't kill. You say bullets kill, right? But part of the job is also asking the question under the question, which is, all right, well, hold on, what is it that you're trying to achieve? Like, what's the net result that you're trying to do? Like, well, we want to give Spider-Man a rapid fire projectile. Like, oh, okay, that's very different than bullets, right?
Exactly.
So, okay, let's figure this out, right? And we sort of work together. And it's like, okay, well, how about this? You know, using what's available there. Spider-Man has 10 or 11 cartridges, depending on who's drawing them and which Spider-Man we're talking about. But 10 or 11 cartridges in his web gauntlet. He's got 30 in his belt, and they're all sort of, they can be different consistencies, etc. Or the injectors that fire the webbing can spin and change and actuate whatever, right? So what's to say that he doesn't have a setting on his web sheeter that actually hardens the webbing into a semi-solid, right? And what's to also say he doesn't have like an accelerator on that. Like it does have an accelerator because it fires at speed, right? So if you have something that's like an aperture that's opening and closing, right, and it's hardening, whatever. Now you actually have pellets. You have lead pellets. Like there's your bullet, right? There's your ballistic Spider-Man weapon, right? And so we all came to that and we're like, yeah, that feels good. It doesn't break the IP. It gives you guys the thing that you want for gameplay, right? And we haven't seen it before because I've never had this conversation before with anybody, right? And not only did they have the pellets that had the ballistic impact and all that stuff, but then they had ones where it's like it hit and then it opened up and it cocooned and all this stuff. So they took that and they ran with it. They made something else. They made something better with it. And a big part of the job is not gatekeeping the IP from people. It's helping these teams align with what the IP is, right? Because you want to take that creativity and make sure it's following the correct path. So stuff like that would be, and for Marvel, I was there for 6 years. That's where the bulk of my sort of library of games that I've worked on came from. We have 26, 27 games running at a time, or productions running at a time, and every single one of these things came across my desk. And when you could sit down with a team and just take the time to figure out what their actual needs are and find a creative solution, that's super fulfilling. You know what I mean?
That's 26 different projects at the same time. So basically, you were doing the same thing Sam Raimi was doing at the time. You were talking to him and showing him like your plans. You're doing that for all the different teams.
Yeah. Well, you know what? You hit on something that this is the thing. The way I like to see it, I used the word web before, not because it's Spider-Man, but because it's just sort of visually, it's there's a spider in the middle of the web, and you can see like this web here moves, and each one of these is a game and a partner, and you're seeing what they're doing in terms of like how they're building their game and what they're tripping up over or whatever. And one of the benefits of the job is going, okay, I see what they did there, and you're not giving away anybody's secret sauce, but this is like maybe process or whatever. And I go, okay, they're about to run into the same problem over here, and I can go, hey, you know what? We have a partner that had to deal with this also, right? And it's I'm not violating any NDA or breaking any trust by going, maybe you should try this, right? This might save you some steps, and if you can do, again, you're in a position to do that, right? You're in the panopticon of all of the games going at once. You get to see all the better practices. Maybe you can help be the tide that rises many ships instead of just one at a time, right? So that's the thing that I really enjoy about the working with.
Spoken like a true producer, indeed. Spider in the web.
Yeah, working with multiple teams. The way my brain is wired, I'm at home where I can, take off my Spider-Man hat, put on an X-Men hat, take off the X-Men hat, put on a Captain America hat, take off that hat, put on an Iron Man hat. It keeps switching contexts all the time, and working in sort of licensed games means that you always have like a portfolio of titles that you're working on. So at 20th Century Games, it was Predator, Avatar, Alien. It was Family Guy, American Dad, etc. Your boy, all these different games, all these different platforms, all these different genres. And for me, I'm like, this is great because it keeps it moving and interesting. One of the challenges, adjustments I had to make, going from licensor to developer, which was from 20th Century Games to Survios, or from Marvel to Telltale, um, was being on a single game is almost like being on a submarine, in that it goes out to sea, it submerges for you know 2-3 years at a time.
Mm-hmm.
That's all. That's your entire world. Those are all the people you're seeing. Those are all the hallways that you're going down and going through. Um, and for me, that starts to feel a little bit like a cage. And the adjustment you have to make, or at least I had to make. The adjustment I had to make was, okay, the hats that I'm wearing aren't labeled Spider-Man, X-Men, Avatar, Alien, whatever. They are labeled production, marketing, animation, um, audio, blah blah blah, and going, okay, well, what's the thing that I get to point myself at today? That sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
That's so it's like, again, same mechanisms, different context, and just sort of realizing that and sort of trying to make that adjustment, is what really helped me settle in, to this sort of new angle.
Mm-hmm. But it's interesting because, I mean, even for me, looking inwards and responding to what you're saying, 26 titles at the same time, over 100 titles that you were credited on. And still, you told me recently that you realized that you might have been thinking small, thinking within institutionalized boundaries. So what triggered that realization, and what is next? What's that thing, the big thing that you're working on or thinking of?
I think it's a few things. I can't say it's just one eureka moment, but it is a more complete answer to the question I was trying to address when I left 20th Century and went to Survios and went there as the chief product officer, which was, how do I get closer to product? How do I get a seat at the table? How do I get to a point where I get to do the things that I want to do?
Mm-hmm.
And I got up to the C-suite, and it was great. It's done. No one can take that from me. But as Alien sort of started to wrap, I started asking myself those questions again about, well, what do I want to, what is it I want to do? How do I get to do the things that I want to do? And I started out with with the muscle memory, the things you do out of muscle memory when you're like, okay, I think I'm going to move on from this job, this thing. And the muscle memory, especially if you've come up sort of in this, mail room up manner,
Mm-hmm.
is you update your resume, you update your LinkedIn profile, you put a new picture up there, right? You set up these new alerts for these different roles or whatever, right? And that was the first domino that had to fall, which was, I've been at this for a very long time. I've done a lot of things in my career. I'm in the C-suite, right? And I brought a game to that company, which was Alien, and brought a vision to life. The sort of roles that I would probably be a fit for are not on LinkedIn. They're not, sorry, LinkedIn. I love you guys. You're great. But, at a certain point, you've shot past it, right? It's not there. Like, those roles never show up on LinkedIn, right? If they do, it's because they probably already have a candidate and they have to post something because of legality, right?
Mm-hmm.
So why am I putting energy into that, right? And I still look because I can't help myself, right? But I'm like, I'm not going to invest as much energy into that, right? That's muscle memory. I need to move past that. I need to do something different. And then I started asking myself, so well, where's the industry at, and so forth, and what's happening. I think that's right when the Matthew Bell report came out, talking about Roblox and so forth. And I remember having a conversation like, oh, if I were going to start a studio right now, I'd probably start something that deliberately puts things into Roblox or puts things into Fortnite or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I started looking at all of that stuff and getting smarter about that space, and and having conversations with people, because another thing you do is you fire up your network again. You start reaching out to folks, and but it was in talking with the people that the perspective really started to shift. Where one, I started to really sort of believe in the fact that I have done all these things and they do matter. And it does put me in a particular space, right? A particular air, a particular level, right? And if you know me, I don't like speaking like that because it feels a lot like bragging, and it's just an uncomfortable feeling for me. But
Mm-hmm.
if I don't acknowledge where I've been and the things I've accomplished, then I'm selling myself short and I'm thinking small,
Amen.
right?
Amen.
It's
Yeah,
always going to
100%.
screw with my perspective, right? So you start embracing, like, you start believing, really believing in who you are, and that starts shifting the perspective, and it changes the answers to what I want. What do I want? Like, where do I want to go? What
Mm-hmm.
are the things that I want to do to grow, and in what direction? And in answering those questions, in no particular order, one of the things that I realized was that most of my career has been about franchise development, IP management, creative, executive leadership. And I was like, okay, now I need to start thinking about all of those things at once. And and the last domino that fell was this idea that, okay, if I just found the right machine to sort of, I often refer to companies as machines. Um, uh, if I find the right machine that's going to allow me to do X, Y, and Z, right?
Mm-hmm.
The last domino to fall was, what if I don't even need the machine? What if
Yeah.
the way I was thinking small was thinking that I had to fit into this,
That you need
model.
that you need the exactly that you need that
Yeah, that
machine
I
in
had
order
to,
for you to shine.
yeah, I had to fit into this model that was sort of hammered into me
Mm-hmm.
30 years ago, and that I've seen and I am seeing deteriorate in real time and breaking apart. And the biggest thing, and I'm sure everyone can understand this, is that the social contract of um, of the merits and the benefits and the consequences of good work are fundamentally broken in the game industry. So when you see teams launching incredibly successful games, and by successful I mean critically well received by fans, huge profits,
Mm-hmm.
then the first thing you see is massive layoffs at that same company, right? That is a broken system.
Yeah.
It's telling people that do the hard work, and the reward may not even be that you keep your job, right? So, and this is the system I'm trying to figure out how I can fit myself into. So maybe the bigger thing, the more appropriate thing, is for me to think outside of that. What do I want to do? Like, what
Mm-hmm.
do I want to create? That sort of thing. Let's start there, right? And once I did that, it sort of it altered my perspective, and it altered, like, a lot of the work that I've done in the past and the work that I'm doing now, and it sort of changed the vector of all those things, right? And
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying this is what everyone should do, and I'm also not saying that if you're in one of these companies and you're happy and you're doing the work and that's what you want to do, great, more power to you. That's awesome, right? Trust me,
Mm-hmm.
like, if if Netflix came along and said, "Hey, we want you to run this, and we're going to give you this and all this freedom." I'm picking up the phone for that, right? That's crazy, right? But
Mhm.
in the interim, I have this. I'm in a particular space right now where I can explore some of these ideas, and I think, again, it's harder to do when you're earlier in your career because you're you're in that survival.
Yeah, you're still
I got
running
to
the rat race.
grind.
Yep.
Yeah, I got to grind. I got to survive. I got to blah blah blah. And some folks arrive at that the thought process that I have, or they start out that way. It's amazing, right? Um, uh, uh,
Yeah.
yes,
You got
exactly. It
amen.
is. It
Amen
is.
to what Vermel
It
says.
is.
Yep.
Yeah, it is. It's like, yeah. What I'm saying is like not specific to the game industry, but it is the crisis that is in front of us as game makers and people in the game industry. But it is happening in everywhere, right? Economic turmoil. But so so that's what I'm trying to sort through. Creatively, what do I want to do, right?
Hmm.
Um, career wise, what do I want to do? What direction do I want to go? And you know what? If you told the me of even a year ago that this is where what I'd be doing right now, I would probably break down in a panic attack, right? Because I was so
The uncertainty. Yeah.
yeah, I was so fix, fixated,
Hmm.
oriented towards this, you know, roadmap that has had existed for so long, but doesn't quite, exist the way it should anymore. Now I've got this sense of like agency.
Hmm.
Do you know what I mean? Where it's like, okay, yeah, yes, there's risk. And yeah, it's this is a crazy time, but I think there's opportunity in this craziness.
Hmm.
I think that's the difference. That's the thing that
Yeah.
doesn't have me sort of drinking in the morning and weeping at night. Right? Is like to quote Littlefinger, chaos is a ladder, right?
Oh, yeah,
And
100%. But it's true.
it's chaotic right now, but I also think there's opportunity, and I also think that the tools that are available to game developers. Again, this is we're bleeding edge. Um, I think there are more tools now for more people to realize their visions than there
Hmm.
ever have been before. And honestly, that's the way it always is. There's always more now than there was even a week ago. But I think there's also more incentive and more economic pressure, and I think there's value in forcing functions sometimes. Um, it's so this the climate now has put me in a space where I guess I'm open and receptive to these ideas, whereas a year ago I
Hmm.
wouldn't have been. Um, and so consequently, on the side, I'm like, well, I wonder if I could solo develop a game on my own, that sort of thing. And like, okay, let's try that. Let's see if I can learn that sort of thing. Oh, I have time to write this thing that's been in my head for a while. Let's play with that. You start figuring out all these things, and they're all. I've said this to you a couple times now. They're all chess pieces on the board, and if I can move them a square forward at a time, it's not much, but it's more than it was yesterday. And then like the next day,
Hmm.
I kind of move forward just a little bit more.
Yep.
And again,
It all
that's
it all adds up.
yeah, and that idea, that mentality, that practice, the mindset, it's again. To Travell, it's like it's applicable. It's not just games; it's applicable to art, to cooking, to music, to blah, blah, whatever it is, right? Like just move a little bit better, a little bit more the next day, um, and you are that much further along on your path. So,
Hmm.
um, yeah, I acknowledge the chaos outside my window, but I'm looking for the opportunity in that chaos, and I'm open to looking for the opportunity in that chaos. And I think that there are tools now that are better enablers of me doing that than there ever have been. So that's kind of cool.
And it's, I mean, first of all, it also gives me hope the way that you're saying this, because I'm in a similar kind of situation. It's also like, okay, what's next for me? How do I create my own legacy for a company, for myself, with other people? So it's inspiring to hear, indeed, that we're all going through these same processes, and indeed that, you know, indeed, like you said, with the tools that you have nowadays, you can be an army of one if you want. I mean, that's basically what I'm doing here as well. An army of one. But with an army of one, you can still make an impact, and you can still create the purpose that you might be missing or that you need in your life.
Yeah, I think so. I think the tools are out there, and it's not just like, oh, this camera or the Unreal Engine. Like, I think AI is also a tool. It's not a solution; it's a tool.
Yep.
That might enable solo developers or small teams, what have you, to stand something up, to realize a vision. And I think that's the silver lining of the world that we're living in right now, is that there are these opportunities.
I mean, people are visual learners, visual beings, and I think that with indeed, like you mentioned, AI, the tools that you have now, even if you don't have the budget, what you can create is a pitch. You can create a working demo, a working model of whatever you want to get across. You can make it look super pretty nowadays, and you can use that potentially to unlock the budget that you need in order to go into full production, especially if you're just starting out. And I think, I don't have to tell you, TQ, but I'm sure your network is quite extensive. It seems like it already, looking in the chat. I think that once you have that thing, the game that you want to produce, the comic that you want to create, maybe you just want to go fully into your Transformers, your Transformers passion, which I see on Instagram.
Yeah.
But
all you probably,
right. But that's the thing. It's like all you probably need to do is make that call.
Oh, I wish it were that simple, because trust me, I would have made that call already. But there's something that you said that I do want to circle back to, about because like what you were describing is sort of the idyllic, what I would say the field of dreams version of it. If you build it, they will come, right? But the reality of what we're seeing right now, and I talked to a lot of developers, a lot of biz dev folks, and the reality of what we're seeing right now is that funding is the most difficult thing, because no one's funding games, and if they are, one of the first questions they'll ask you is, okay, show me how you're using AI to reduce your workforce by 50%. And it's like, well, like, let's break that down. If people are what makes games great, getting rid of half the people
is dumb.
Walk me through how that's a benefit, right? Walk me through how that's good business sense, and how do I get quality that way? So, but
short-term thinking.
So you have folks that know and like money a lot, right? That don't know anything about games, but they like money a lot, and they like and they want a return now, and they want it for as little sort of investment as possible, and they want AI to be on sort of the billboard there, and I don't think those things, they don't align. And I know
Fair
that
enough.
there are CEOs, there are studio heads, there are corp dev, biz dev people in this game industry who are being pushed into a position to negotiate against themselves, or compromise their values, right? Or being and I'm not saying that people with money are sinister. I'm saying that they don't understand what they're asking for, right?
True.
And that's Yeah, sure. Some of them are sensitive, sure. But it's like but I think like putting a positive spin on it, they don't understand what they're asking, right?
True.
And you know, you want people at the top of the organization to have, integrity, to have business sense, to give a damn about the people that work for them, etc. Right? And but when they do that, when they sort of politely push back and go, well, look, if you want the timeline you're talking about is not realistic, especially if you are saying that I have to reduce my workforce by 50% and use technology that isn't necessarily proven, that doesn't have a win case yet. They're being penalized for being honest. So again, like, the social contract is broken, or it's upside down at the very least, and it's everywhere. And like I always, like you said, we're visual entities in nature, and the cyclical nature of the game industry has always been, there's a period of growth and expansion and acquisition, where the bigger company absorbs the smaller company, and then what will eventually happen is there'll be some sort of implosion or explosion, and you'll see these big things break apart, and then you'll see this person here, this person here, this person here, this person here will get together, and you'll see new teams will form, new companies will form, new ideas will coalesce. And I think of that in my head, it's like that's a stellar nursery, right? It's the gaseous cloud where stars are being born and so forth, right? But the catalyst for this creation of the new star, right? The gravity that pulls it all together is funding, right? And if the funding isn't there because your proposal doesn't say AI, or doesn't say AI quite the way that seems sexy to the people with the checkbook, well, then those new stars don't form, right? Those new teams don't form. Those new games don't get made. And then those people that are out there adrift and can't connect with each other, get to a terminal point where, they need something, anything. And there are folks like, I always point to engineers when I talk about this, because I think it's the easiest one to get your head around. I'm an engineer, and it's not happening. The game industry is a hostile place. It's a bad neighborhood. And I go, you know what? I don't need this. I can go to Grumman. I can go to SpaceX. I can go to Apple. I can go to whatever, right? And I could be an engineer over here doing this thing. And they leave the industry. And all of that institutional knowledge leaves with them.
Yeah.
All of that experience, all of those personal stories that help inform the product, that make things feel new and interesting and intimate and innovative, leave the industry, and they're not coming back. You know what I mean? Or most of them are not coming back.
No.
And you're having, now expand that to animators, right? Writers, designers, artists.
There's an exodus of talent and unused or lost potential. Yeah.
Yes.
Agreed.
Yes, exactly. And it's not like you can say AI will replace all this stuff.
No, it won't. But it won't.
No, it won't. It won't. I mean, we'll find our uses for it. You know what I mean? It might streamline a few things here and there. Of course it will. But it can't, that's talent and ability. And Neil deGrasse Tyson said this once about the act of sort of defunding NASA, right? It is like, what we're doing is and attacking science and attacking education is like, we are mortgaging our future for the present, right? Not wanting to go to the moon, not wanting to study Mars, not wanting to send out satellites. But we are mortgaging our future, right?
Oh yeah.
And I think what's happening now is that we are I don't know, maybe we're evicting our future in games, right? Or we're limiting it. We're gatekeeping our future, So that's why I think it's important that more and more people sort of think about their path, think about how they've been navigating that path, and if they think there's a different way, don't be afraid to try that different way. It's not always going to work. I can't promise that. I can't say it's going to work for me, but I'm open to it, and the sense of agency I have is the thing that I feel rather is the thing that keeps the hobgoblins away. Right? It's like I'm doing something. Like every day, I'm moving something forward. Right? It's like, and I know I have this plan, this one. Then I have this second layer of plans. Like if that doesn't work, okay, it's not the end of the world. I've got these other things going on. And that's sort of the way I'm thinking about it now. And that's sort of the evolution of how I think about work in the industry and my place in it, and how I get to 31 years or 32 or 33, right? That's sort of
baby steps all the way. It's indeed any movement, as long as there's movement, and sometimes there will be movement backwards, but still it's movement.
Yep. Yeah. Like I said, I wasn't a great employee early on in my career, and I took that hit and made adjustments and got better, and learned from those mistakes. Right. I've been knocked down a lot of times in my career. You can't go this long without being knocked down, without getting your nose bloodied, your eye, the black eye, the bloody nose, the skinned knees, and all that stuff. But you get up, you dust yourself off, and
try again.
Maybe you don't walk straight forward again because you got punched that way. Maybe you go a little
you swerve a little bit.
Yeah. You go offline, but yeah, the lumps are gonna come, right? It's unavoidable, but it's just like how you think about how you respond to it. How do you think about what that next step is? It's so important. I can't stress it enough, and be okay with you're gonna make mistakes. You're gonna screw up. It's fine.
Yep.
It happens.
It's life,
right? It's not the end
of the world. Human beings. We're not perfect.
Yeah, I'm 53 years old, and I'm sitting there talking about, I can't wait for what's going to happen tomorrow, right? So it's ongoing. It's never ending, and that's what's great about it. So, yeah.
Thank you, man. I know we're running way over. I mean, I think we were 33 minutes over, but hey, I learned a lot. I appreciate this, man, really, and I think I needed this as well. Because, like I said, I mean, I'm in similar kind of, not per se similar. I mean, I got 10 more years to go in order to be at your level. But, it's in a similar kind of life phase when you're thinking of, okay, what's really important for me? And like you said, if Netflix comes calling, sure. I mean, we'll have a conversation.
Or even better, if Hasbro comes calling.
Exactly.
It's like, I'm going to pick up the phone for that, right? I'm not crazy, right? But, and it's not like, you have to, be in 30 years to get to this point. Some people, 5 years, some people walk in the room with this sort of mindset. That's amazing, right? If I were here 10 years ago, even better, right? But, I think the thing now is, and again, you and I have talked about this, and it's like I'm also at a point in my career and in my life where I'm not wholly preoccupied with the grind of survival, right? I've got a little elbow room. I've carved out a little space for myself. And not only am I using that to explore sort of my own creative projects and energy, but I'm also looking for opportunities to sort of look back down the path to see who else is there trying to move forward as well. And if I can reach back or down, whatever direction the metaphor needs, if I can reach out and grab somebody's hand and help them along a little bit, I feel like that's my responsibility as a veteran in this industry, right? to try to identify or just try to be helpful to the people that aren't as far down the path as I am, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm trying to carve out time for that too, you know, because it's like I've gotten a lot out of this industry, right? And I want it to be successful. I want it to persist. I want it to evolve. I want it to get past this current crisis it's in. And I can't say that I'm doing my best if I've got blinders on and I'm just thinking about myself.
I couldn't have said it better, but yes, I totally agree with you. Totally agree with you. That's why it's important to reach out and to uplift the others. But that's also why I think it's important for me with with the little network that I have to uplift and amplify your story that hopefully inspires indeed the next talents, the next gems to be like, oh, if he can do it, maybe I can do it. If he can do it in 30, maybe I can do it in 15. That kind of stuff.
Exactly. Like, yeah, do it faster. You know, like I think now you need to be more intentional and more focused in what you're doing. Like I said,
yes.
Like I said, if I tried to apply in QA with what I knew then now, I'd be working at Wendy's, right? So I think it was before there were schools with curricula for video game production and video game design and so forth. Like those didn't exist when I came up. It was just learning on the job. So I think there's definitely more intent and there's a greater expectation of knowledge, but which is daunting because it feels like there's a barrier to entry. But flip it on its head, and what that also says is that you're also better set up for success. Exactly. And maybe you do. If I had the same sort of resources, maybe I would have done it in 15 years.
Yeah,
who knows?
And the knowledge is out there. The knowledge is out there nowadays, and it's easily accessible, much more easy accessible than it used to be. 100%. So you have no excuse, people. Find your way.
Yes.
Get inspired by this man. He's a legend.
One thing that I will say to folks is like the first time you get a business card, you're going to go hog wild with it. Go for it. Enjoy yourself. Right. I remember I was, here you go.
Oh, I do it. Same here. I still have my first business card somewhere. I think. Yeah.
I have one business card from every company I've worked for since Activision. And I want to, when I'm kind of done, I'm just going to put them in a frame somewhere, they're not as cool as war medals, right? But they are war.
These are our war medals. Medals is
like exactly.
And the funny thing is, you'll probably never be done.
Yeah. Like
which is
like
good.
Jack, playing Wolverine. I've got to be doing this till I'm 90.
Yeah, exactly. As long as you're still having fun, it's all good.
Yeah, I'll still be playing games, that's for sure. I'll still be collecting Transformers. I'll still be, reading comic books, until I can't anymore. So why not?
I think that's a great final sentence of this conversation. Why not? Why not? It all started with a right click.
Yeah. Yes. It all started with right click.
Alrighty, good sir. I appreciate you spending even more time than anticipated. It flew by, honestly.
Oh, hey, I'm following your lead. Like, if you told me 30 minutes ago to like wrap it up, I'm like, all right.
Dude, I was to keep you talking, dude. I'm like ingesting as much knowledge from you as possible. I'm like, no, I'll take the additional 39 minutes. Thank you very much.
Well, look, I want to say thank you for providing this forum, this service. This avenue for people to either tell their stories like me or to see other people's stories and maybe get something out of them. That's, what you're doing. And like, no one asked you to do this. It's not like a Ubisoft venture. This is a thing you're doing. And that's awesome.
Yep. Yeah. Ubisoft has nothing to do with this other than, bring me to the point and where I am right now.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Alrighty.
All right.
I thank you very much, TQ. Thank you everybody for watching.
Thanks everyone.
Annabelle, Mark, India, Lewis, everybody for joining in the chat, for sharing your questions. Tremel, of course.
If you see me at GDC, say hi.
For sure. I mean, if I see you, come on. I'll say more than hi.
Well, no, not with you, of course, but like Lewis and Cal, and yeah.
All right, cool. I was like, that would be very weird. Everyone would just walk past you. He's like, "No, fuck this dude."
All right, we gotta let these people go, man.
Yeah, exactly. Alrighty, good sir. Thank you so much. This is Black Game Pros, back again as soon as possible. Thank you very much.